Apparently, Spotify is doomed and it's in major trouble. Let's find out why.
I am Barack Obama. I am Barack Obama.
Okay.
Even though Spotify is the most popular music streaming platform in the world, they aren't making any profit. Its business model sucks. The tech giant has tied itself in tight corners trying to get something good from their terrible business model. From a failed investment of $1 billion into podcasting to monthly subscription price increases,
You hear that? Failed when they tried to do all that Spotify stuff. What did they pay Joe Rogan? Like $100 million, something crazy like that?
Let's delve into some of the reasons that has Spotify in big trouble. Before Spotify was launched, music piracy was the dominant force. An empire of illegal downloading and piracy was built thanks to the peer-to-peer sound file sharing capability provided by LimeWire, Napster, and many similar platforms. The mainstream music industry was unable to keep it under control. Luckily, by 2006, Spotify was launched with the sole purpose of dealing with piracy.
So if you think about it, Spotify actually kind of saved the day because music was already free. I had LimeWire. What was it? There was also FrostWire. Remember when Soulja Boy was like releasing 50 Cent songs, but it was actually his song? Shit was nuts.
The only difference this time is that the artist would get revenue from each stream. But a freemium is only as good as the revenue model to back it up. For revenue, Spotify's free users can stream unlimited amounts of music on their desktop, but need to listen to ads every once in a while. However, they can easily upgrade to a premium subscription to get the full Spotify experience. But since Spotify saw itself as the legal alternative to piracy, they needed to license the music from the big three labels in the industry, Sony, Universal, and Warner. Spotify agreed to pay $200 million, or 75% of their total revenue, whichever was greater, in exchange for access to the entire catalogs of the big three. This was great, because users could access all music worldwide without paying per song, but terrible.
Wait, that's actually nuts. I get it now, because I saw something about this. But Spotify paid the labels in the beginning $200 million to license all the music from the past. I was kind of tripping on that because I'm like, why would they have to pay the labels if people are releasing music and distributing straight to Spotify? But I guess in the early days, they had to do that.
Because Spotify had to pay for this access. This means that if Spotify earns $1 billion this year, for example, $750 million will go to the big three. Not only do they have to pay to access the catalog, but they also need to pay the rights holders for a fraction of each stream in perpetuity when streamers pay for it. And let me tell you, the cost structure is absolutely insane. As of 2023, Spotify pays artists between 0.003 cents and 0.005 cents per stream on average. This can vary depending on the streamer location in the world. That works out to an approximate revenue split of 70-30. So that's 70% to the rights holders and 30% to Spotify, which in turn goes to operations, expenses, and salaries, practically leaving nothing for profit. These royalties go to the rights holders regardless of how many times you've streamed the song.
So you're telling me Spotify is poor, bro? So it wasn't just $200 million back then. They have to continue paying the labels, bro? Huh? That is nuts. What the hell?
Some might argue that paying so little per stream to the artist doesn't seem like much, especially considering that Spotify is infamously known as the platform that pays artists the least. And considering that they boast over 551 million active users each month, out of 220 million are premium, that's a lot of money flowing in, while only a small fraction is flowing out, right? Well, that's not entirely correct, no. Spotify has close to $10 billion in royalties since its launch in 2006 and has achieved its first ever profit in 2019. For each stream, Spotify pays somebody. The more you stream, the more they're going to have to pay. Not only that, but the music catalog you find in Spotify is to be identical to the one in other rival services like Apple Music. They do bring artists for exclusive sessions now and then, of course, but this isn't enough to make a huge spike in revenue. To achieve that, they need to make something original. You see, Apple has always been the company that mattered in the podcasting world. Spotify, on the other hand, didn't support podcasts until 2015. Initially, their foray into podcasting wasn't particularly earnest and remained so until 2019. Spotify soon recognized the booming growth in podcast popularity and pledged to invest about $1 billion to build their empire. This decision was well justified, as approximately 33% of Americans now tune in to podcasts at least once a week.
Do you guys watch podcasts on Spotify? Does anybody do that? Because I go on YouTube. I mean, I have YouTube Premium. YouTube Premium is like fucking $30 or like $20. It's nuts. It's worth it to me at least, but like I don't listen to podcasts on Spotify.
All-time high. Moreover, monthly podcast downloads worldwide increased from 111 million to 125 million. Furthermore, podcast listeners, when compared to the consumers of other media forms, tend to be younger and have higher incomes. The podcast industry is experiencing a boom in advertising revenue, fueled by the fact that 30% of listeners fall within the 12 to 24 age group, and nearly half of them earn more than $75,000 annually.
Hold on now. Wait a second. So you're telling me podcast listeners are richer than music listeners? So I need to start a podcast. See, that's the thing. I've always wanted to start a podcast, but I just need a co-host, or I'll just have to have on guests every single time until maybe one of my guests, we have good chemistry and we start it. Let me know if you guys want a podcast.
They already have a large audience listening to podcasts, but they wanted to go further. To do so, Spotify has went on an acquisition spree with a budget of up to $500 million set aside for podcast acquisitions in 2019.
Damn.
Spotify had decided to spend $400 million of that budget buying Parcast, Gimlet, and Anchor. They made deals with the Obamas, the Kardashians, Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and the biggest podcaster in the world, Joe Rogan. It spent up to $250,000 every single episode to entice new listeners around the world, and around $290 million on podcast studios. However, the payoff hasn't materialized as expected just yet. Sure, they've gained a rise in subscribers.
Bro, that's nuts. They're spending $250K per episode on what, advertisements and shit?
And have had some successes, but nothing that's really a game changer for them. Spotify's enormous investment has left some questioning the rationality of its bet on the industry. You see, podcasting world still represents a small fraction of the digital advertising market, as it's expected to hit $2.3 billion this year. Furthermore, the increasing number of podcast listeners is met with a tsunami of shows on various streaming platforms, making it challenging for new hits to emerge. And that is exactly what put Spotify in bad financial shape here. Since the acquisition spree, Meghan Markle's podcast was discontinued.
Not the Succession music, bro. That's how you know it's a wrap for them, bro.
In less than a year, and the Obamas parted ways with their arrangement to join Amazon's Audible. By making podcasting more popular, Spotify had created an opportunity for other platforms to capitalize on.
Damn! Hold on. You create an industry for yourself, but then like other people come in due to your creation of it, and they just like fuck up all your shit, bro. They start stepping on your shoes and stealing your money while they're at it, and just like saying thank you.
This year, Spotify expects podcast ad revenue to grow by 30%, which is more than its overall revenue growth. With the Spotify Audience Network, advertisers can reach certain groups of listeners, giving them more chances to advertise. However, this remains a long-term vision because as of right now, their bet is not paying off. If anything, it's made matters worse for them. Spotify was forced to lay off about 2% of its workforce and raise the price of its core subscriptions by $1 to $10.99 per month. To sum it up, Spotify has had its...
$1. Wow. Holy shit. $1. So here's what I think. They pay so much out to these labels. That is nuts. But here's the thing. Okay, they're raising the threshold to get paid. So you got to get 1,000 streams or some shit to start getting paid. So maybe people like me will start getting paid a little more or something. That's cool. I don't see why they don't raise the subscription. I don't like maybe $13 a month. I don't think people will be too mad about $3 extra and cancel it if this is their main way to listen to music. So that's interesting. But still though, Spotify, like for artists specifically, it's just miles ahead of the competition. So like regardless, Spotify is the best platform for musicians. All the features, like somebody bought my merch today. Like somebody bought the Snowfly bundle from Spotify, and you can see that stuff in Shopify. Like Apple isn't doing that. I don't know about Amazon or all these other platforms, but like when it comes to artists, Spotify may pay you less, but you get the most streams on Spotify. The algorithm's better, all the playlists, all that kind of stuff is just way better than everything else. But if they're this fucked, another conversation to be had is, what if they go down? And that is my main source of revenue, bruh. So that means, yeah, Spotify could just be gone, and then that just cuts my life in half. So that sucks. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
I am Barack Obama. I am Barack Obama.